Hello everyone, this is Brigu Talukdar. Welcome to our lecture on youth media and crime. This lecture is part of your paper on youth, media and society. Youth represents a complex as well as promising stage in life. It is characterized by confusions, socio-economic challenges, various types of insecurities, etc. Young people are more open to changes, so this stage reflects greater amount of dynamism and questioning. This dynamism is also reflected in description of youth by Suarez. According to Suarez, youth does not depend on actual physiological development so much as on cultural factors which vary from society to society and from age to age, each in its way imposing an order and meaning which seem transitory and even disordered and chaotic. Such a time of life cannot be clearly defined either by population statistics or by legal definition. Although generally United Nations consider people in the age group of youth 15 to 24 years as youth, but it also recognizes that definition of youth continuously varies in different societies around the world in response to changing political, economic, and socio-cultural circumstances. Globalization, emergence of new media, especially social networking sites, privatization, etc., have greatly affected the behavioral pattern among youth. It has been observed in various studies that youth are increasingly becoming more aggressive. This aggressiveness is also being carrying forward into adulthood and turning youth into violent adults. Violent media content through television, films, video games, etc. is considered one of the main reasons of this behavioral change. Therefore, in this lecture, we try to elaborate upon various dimensions related to the interaction of youth and media and their impact on youth crime. We will study the theoretical framework of youth deviance studies. You will be made familiar with the concept of deviant behavior and the impacts of cinema, social networking sites, etc. on youth behavior. You will also learn about some interventions to mitigate the harmful impact of media on youth. So, let us begin with the concept of deviant behavior. Youth media and crime. What is deviant behavior? It is characterized by the violation of formal rules and informal socio-cultural norms such as theft, homicide, etc. Various biological, psychological, and sociological factors determine such type of behavior. The classical school has its origin in social contract theory. It considered free will of rational man as basis of society. According to Bentham and Beccaria, youth crime is the manifestation of rational choice. Utilitarianism and retribution are the two main propositions of this approach. Human application of retribution is an important aspect of this theory. Humans show deviant behavior in pursuit of pleasure. So punishment is used as a measure to avoid crime. It acts as deterrence. This theory is also widely followed in the modern penal system. Bentham greatly contributed in the establishment of inspection-based prison system in the 19th century. Emergence of right-wing political forces in the UK and USA during 1970s gave prominence to this approach again. It also led to increased interest in the field of youth crime. Media was considered as main reason of moral decline because it provided platform to the negative effects of popular culture. Tough punishments were demanded for young criminals. This theory rejected the class struggle explanation of crime. It emphasized that both culprit and victim came from lower class. On the other hand, it believed that the elite shows characteristics of conformists, limited deviation. According to Wilson, if the supply and the value of legitimate opportunities, that is job, was declining at the very time that the cost of illegitimate opportunities, that is fines and jail terms, was also declining, a rational youth might well have concluded that it made more sense to steal cars than to wash them. Public order and morality play important role in fight against youth deviance. We will look at the deterministic approach. The deterministic approach, according to this approach, young people are predestined to commit a crime. Biology and psychology greatly contributed in the development of this approach. It considered that a particular type of genetic makeup can be the reason of criminogenic behavior in a person. The sociological approach. Apart from biology and psychology, the role of sociological factors in determining the youth crime was also analyzed. It resulted into the formation of predestined actor model. Before the First World War, youth crime was studied mainly with respect to urban problems. Later, studies can be categorized into three periods. Sociologists at the Chicago University started the social pathology approach in youth deviance studies. They focused on the attributes of urban life that challenge the traditional outlook of society. The emergence of slums, poverty, and youth deviance were degrading the life standards in the city. Such life condition was termed pathological. According to these researchers, such types of social problems were the results of individual deviance. During 1920-30s, Chicago sociologists focused on the role of urban growth, economic development, and emergence of multi-ethnic society in youth deviance. This period, the second period of sociological approach, is called social disorganization period in the youth crime studies. They considered changing environment of city as source of youth crime, suicide, mental disorders, etc. They tried to understand the city as a whole culture. According to Downs and Rock, Chicago sociology was to become the sociology of Chicago itself, a detailed anthropological mapping of the social territories that made the city. An exploding mosaic of contrasting social worlds. Urban life resembled a phantasmagoria, a welter of shifting scenes and identities. These sociologists considered crime as product of economic development and resultant urbanization. The third category of sociological approach to youth deviance is called Normative Period approach. This approach was propounded by sociologists such as Robert Merton, Edwin Sutherland, etc. According to them, youth crime is the product of conflict between cultures and values. By his differential association theory, Sutherland dealt with youth deviance at micro level. According to him, youth deviance occurs when there is excess of values, motives favoring criminal behavior. Likewise, Cohen propounded that youth deviance is a result of problems faced by young people in a class-based society, failure or inability in achieving middle-class success led to the emergence of delinquent subculture. On the other hand, control theory tradition inquires into the reasons of conformist traits of some individual despite being vulnerable to youth deviance. According to this theory, break from conventional order creates favorable conditions for youth deviance. By critically analyzing the normative approach, victim-actor model provides counterculture and labeling theory. This theory tries to reduce the differences labeled by dominant ideology on the deviant. These Marxist sociologists have greatly contributed in the youth deviance studies in developing countries. They interpret criminal behavior in the context of class struggle. Now, let us look at the impact of media forms on youth, cinema and youth deviance. Deviant behavior such as stealing, aggression, etc. has been aggravated by the cinema through misrepresentation of youth and by shaping their popular perception. Cinema often presents youth as violent, disconnected from parents, etc. It also popularizes high-cost lifestyle at large scale. Young people try to achieve it by legitimate or illegitimate means, which encourage deviant tendencies among youth. Another aspect of cinema is the representation of sexuality in it. Sexually oriented media content often attract youth easily. Media content play an important role in shaping their sexual behavior. In a study conducted by Banerjee, one respondent said that one can learn about sex from Hollywood and about romance from Hindi movies. Sexual content is often presented in association of drinking, drugs, and smoking. According to a study, college students having exposure to violent sexual content show tendency to accept violence against women as normal. Physical appearance is often associated with self-identity and self-esteem. It has been led to the emergence of phenomena called lookism, which is facilitated by modern mass media. It has encouraged the discrimination based on physical appearance. The popularity of violent cinema in the genre of action, adventure, etc. has led to the desensitization of youth to violence and incitement of hostile feelings. According to Bushman and Anderson, people who are exposed to violent movies tend to feel less sympathetic towards victims of violence and reduce or delay their helping behavior, as the violent entertainment is perceived as normal. Media's portrayal of physical and sexual violence increases the acceptability of such kind of behavior in society. New media and youth deviance. Revolutionary developments in information technology segment led to the beginning of the era of information explosion. With the invention of digital media, information is reaching at much faster pace to the receiver. It has greatly impacted the lifestyle, psychology, etc. of people, especially youth, because young people are consuming it at much larger scale than others. Youth have plenty of time to spend on social media, which in turn is affecting their behavior and replacing the role of parents as provider of basic social information at early stage of life to some extent. Social media has emerged not only as leisure platform but also as an instrument to bring social change. But social networking sites are also creating favorable conditions for deviant behavior of youth. Many youth are learning abusive language from social networking sites. They are also adopting such language in the influence of their peer group. There is also a trend of making fake profiles for various purposes, often malicious. There are many cases of harassing, defaming, etc. through fake profiles. Many youths are involved in sending offensive pictures and videos to their friends as well as unknown persons. The problem also arises because social media surpasses the gatekeeper check present in traditional media, youth, and moral panic. Mass media has presented youth as offenders of formal and informal norms of society. It led to the development of negative image of youth as a subculture. According to Cohen, young people have to carry a peculiar burden of representation, that is, the impact of media discourse used to sensationalize and demonize young people in modern society. This situation has led to public overreaction. Adults have started to consider youth as problematic subculture. Media has represented youth deviance as new phenomena, which has led to the emergence of moral panic-like situation in the society. Many newspapers across the world are sensationalizing the youth-related coverage for commercial benefits. Electronic media has also shown these types of tendencies. Young people have been frequently labeled as thug, lout, and more recently as hoodie. Media is presenting old phenomena of youth deviance with new labels to sensationalize it. People are increasingly associating the labeling of hoodie with attack, knife attacks, abusive, etc. It also reflects the power of media to shape the image of a group. Media violence and youth. It has been revealed in many studies that violent media content greatly impacted the behavior of youth. It encourages aggressive and violent reactions from youth. There are also sufficient evidences to support the view that it also incites severe form of aggression. Television, video games, and films are most researched mediums in this context. These mediums have shown more or less same results in inciting the youth behavior. The impact of media depends upon the extent of the exposure to a particular medium. Generally, short-term interaction may result into the physically or verbally aggressiveness, generation of intense emotions, etc. Recent researchers have found that a youth with greater violent media exposure is more vulnerable to becoming a deviant adult. There is a greater chance of his or her involvement in crimes like homicide, physical assaults, etc. Now that we have looked at the impacts of all these mediums, let us look at some remedial measures to mitigate the harmful effects of violent media exposure. Media also has social responsibility. Therefore, it can self-regulate the content to minimize the use of violent expression. Parents also have responsibility to monitor the access of various media. They can also educate their children about the negative effects of various media such as social networking sites. Parents can also inculcate such values that make their children more epithetical. However, there remains a lack of sufficient formal research in this area. We are living in the era of information explosion. Youth, being a very sensitive phase of life, is more vulnerable to be influenced by media. And we all know that media has tremendous potential to shape the perception of a group about themselves and also about society. I hope that at the end of this lecture, you have learned through various studies that violent media content is one of the main contributor in fueling the aggressiveness of young people. It is clear that apart from aggressive media content being a factor to youth deviance, media is giving disproportionately more coverage to the deviant behavior of youth in comparison to other important issues related to the youth. It has negatively affected the image of youth in the society. For more details, please read the module on this lecture carefully and attempt the questions in the end. Thank you.